mining.tv. My name is Margaret Carlton. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. Hope y'all are having a lovely day. Hey Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So it's Wednesday, everybody. So we do this 5 days a week at 1 p.m. PST, generally at 2 p.m. PST. We cover pretty much talk about the wonderfulness of FileMaker every day of the week because there's a lot to cover, quite frankly. Last 2 days we were discussing MCP and AI. Now we're going back to AutoEntry versus re-lookups, which is a good conversation to have. It's one of those like little tripping grounds people can find themselves in. Nick is here to explain what we're doing. So, if you'd like to support the channel, feel free to scroll down and give us a look at our annual subscription bundles. People sometimes hit me up in the stream and go like, "Hey, stream's great. Don't necessarily like the format." That happens. Our streams are an hour long, and they can be conversational, which means we will sometimes hop topics within generally the subject matter, but it can be a little bit bouncy because we like having an ongoing conversation. As a result, if you are looking for very specific answers about very specific things in a video format, we have the answer. Go look at our annual subscription training. We've got 100 plus hours of video content. It's all very animated, very specific. Videos average about 10 minutes. Other than that, if you're looking at this and going like, hey, FileMaker is a really great platform, which it is, but I don't necessarily want to figure out how to do API, or I don't have the time to sit here and properly code my own database, you can reach out to us to hire one of our senior engineers at support@rcconsulting.com. Nick is one of those senior engineers you've seen other than pop up on the show, Calvin, Jonathan Ray, the like. So, with that all being said, I think we're probably good. Nick, would you like to share your screen and tell me what we're doing?
Okay, today we do, you know, we are going to talk about this, okay? These two options, this one and this one, those two, okay? Because sometimes it gets confusing on what they do, okay? And most of it is when to use them, because they tend to do the same thing. When it's about getting data from a related record, right? They do the same thing but differently. Okay, so when to use this and when to use this. Okay, but first, let's talk about an auto entry calculation. Let's talk about this, how they work. Okay, so an auto entry calculation, if I go there, okay, let's say I create a new record here. Okay, and I say Nick, right? And I'm going here and I say Hunter. We can see here this got modified. This got modified. Why? Because the calculation that I have here on auto entry, right? I say I want, pretty much first and last. That's what I want, if I put like here, if I change this, boom, this get recalculated, right? So when this happened, why it happened? Well, it happened because let's say I have all the fields, right? I have an address field and a phone field, okay? Let's say I have those. Address, right? And phone, for example, okay? So here, if I modify first or last, right? This get modified. But if I put here something, if I put something here, it doesn't change. I mean, so that means there's no updates, right? If I change this, it doesn't update, right? Do you understand? So it updates only if one of those two fields gets changed. Why? Because in the calculation, I'm referencing those two, right? So because I'm referencing those two, if I change this or this, that means if I reference this field and this field, if I change one of those two, this field, this calculation gets reevaluated. If I change this or this one gets reevaluated automatically. Why? Because this is part of it, right? But if I modify this or this, it won't change this, okay? It won't affect, okay? So this is how AutoEntry works, okay? So, so the problem here, right, is when we want to update related record, right? Because everything changed. For example, if I go here, right, and I want to get, how I can explain that? Yeah. So let's say I'm here, right? Let's go to another account here. Let's say I'm here, and I want to get the name of the related accounts. This guy here is related to this account. Let me see. All right. This guy, John Smith, is related to the account sales alpha, right? Because this ID matched this ID. So how could I get, right, the account name, right? I want the account name. And I want to use, right, an auto entry calculation. Okay. How I can get this account name to be updated. Okay. How I can, even if I put this here, if I do this, it works. I mean, if I force, for example, I put the ID that we number the ID of this account. If I do this, boom, right? If I change the name here, it's not updated here. Okay? I have no way to update this, right? And if I change anything here, it doesn't update it. Okay. I need, again, to delete this and paste this again. In that case, boom, it updates. Okay. Well, this is not great to do that, right? So you will say, okay, let's switch gear. Let's use, this is the auto entry, okay? That means I modified the key used in the relationship, right? And when you do this, right, it is called tickling. You know, tickling, tickled, you know, you tickling. We call that tickling. So how we do this, how we do the tickling, okay? Like this. We set the fields, the foreign key with itself, right? So I'm setting the field, I'm setting this field with itself. right? We call that tickling look. If I click here, it updates. Okay, we call that tickling. Okay. If now I can, this is their auto entry. So far, do we have questions?
Not at the moment, so you're good to keep going.
Okay. So if I want to use relookup now, okay. So how relookup works? So tickling C, it applies to this record, tickling up this record. I updated that record only. Okay. Now I want to do the relookup. Let's use to get the account name. Let's use a relookup. So I'm in contact from accounts, and I want the name. Okay. So here, how can I do this? How can I get the info? Okay. Here, right? Well, there's two ways. First way, you go here and you say relookup, right? But wait a minute. If you do this, right, it works, it will work, but you will do it for the 15 record. You do that for the font set. You do that for the entire font set. Okay, let's say if I have this only, right? If I select the field and I say relookup, is on the 6th record. Okay. So if you do it, you'll do it on the font set. Okay. So if you want to update only one record, okay, what you need to do is to isolate that record only, right? So I have only this one. And then you can do relookup, and then you do on one record. Okay. And you get it for one record. Or if you want, you can also use the tickling. It works also for the relookup. I mean, you update the ID, the foreign key with itself. That will update the data, the tickling. So there's a similarity between relookup and AutoEntry, right? It works the same way. So you can do what I've done here. You can do this. You can say this from contact to account, and you get this. Or you can say this. Give me the account name from the relationship. But when you do this with the auto entry, right, you don't have a relookup, right? So what you can do only the tickling. So now here the difference we have between those two. What is the relookup? The relookup is good, this is fantastic when you have more likely you won't have to update that record, that field. more likely. More likely, you won't have often to re-look up this. Okay, this is how, this is how I use it. But how the relookup, what is a relookup exactly? What it does behind the scene. When you do this, right? And you have 15 record here, and you select this and you say relookup. What it does. It does this. So he went through all the records and updates this, right? See? He update this for all my records. If I blank this, right? Let's say now, right? Instead of doing the relookup, I replace this key with itself. This is what relookup does, right? It looks like that's why they are together. Because behind the scene, FileMaker does the same thing. This is what the relookup does. Understand? Pretty much it does a replace field content with itself. So it do a replace tickling. It does a tickling to all the records. That's pretty much what it's doing. Okay. So what it does, it goes there, it says tickling. It goes there, tickling. There, tickling. There, tickling. Okay. So that is the relookup. No question?
Oh, I was
Okay.
muted. Okay, lovely. Nope. I was talking to
Okay.
you and you sounded like you were responding to me. I thought it was good. But no, we're good on the question front. So if you're
Okay.
good to keep
Okay.
going.
So now, where's the problem here now? Why we have this conversation? Well, if you want to, if you use relookup, if you use lookup, no, sorry, if you use this lookup, okay, you have much less flexibility than calculated value. Calculated value, you have much more control. Here, to update, you have two ways, the tickling or the relookup. Right? Now, let's say I want to use, and the problem is the relookup, it's hard, as you saw that, right? It's hard to say, oh, I want to update only this record, right? You know what I mean? It's hard because it's carpet bombing. It's all the found sets, right? And you have difficulty to control this. So let's do something else, okay? Let's say I want to use the calculated value. But you want something more, cleaner than the tickling. You want something like you can control, something you have a control, okay? Because here's the problem. Let's say I'm creating a new table. Addresses, okay? And in addresses, I'm putting this. Let me create those two. Okay, so this is ID address, and this is the ID of contact. Okay, and this is address. And address, it's related to contact. Okay. Oh yeah, but not contact, sorry. Is related to how I can do that? No, because here the problem how I can do that? Uh, I want to use the same. So let's call that account address. Okay. And I don't want to, I want to be with the account. Okay. Okay. So now it's better. So let's say in my contacts, okay, I have the key for accounts, update the account name and the account address. So, and let's say I'm using relookup for both, okay? Relookup for the name and relookup for the address, okay? So let's say I'm creating a new okay. I don't want this. Okay, new record, account, and 234 new street. Okay. Okay. I have my address. Okay. So here, this ID, right, it's updating two things. It updates this, the name, and the address. Okay. And here the problem, because I mean, if I do the tickling, he updated both. See? He updated both. If I do the relookup, he, okay, he updated both. How can I do, sorry, I'm cleaning up. How can I say, okay, I want to update address, but leave account alone? Or I want to update accounts and leave address alone? Or update both, right? How can I do that? So there's no flexibility because we have two ways with the lookup. We have the relookup and the tickling. That's it. And that will update if I do the tickling on that ID, it will refresh, it will relookup, it will re-update everything related to that ID. So that's why it's slow, because sometimes you have complex situation where you have a foreign key and you have a lot of things related to this. A lot, but you want to update only one thing. let's say you have like 200 things all over the place with that ID, but you want to update only one field. Well, with the lookup, relookup, tickling, using this situation, right? Using this situation, you have no way. It will update everything related with this ID whatsoever. Okay? So when you have one record, that's okay. But let's say you have 100,000 records and you have like 30 or 35 fields and related things all over the place. I have this situation. And you want to update one field, just this field. But unfortunately, you had to go through all the relationship, everything, because you do the relookup, right? So that's too heavy, right? And you don't want to do that. So this is why the calculated value is better. So let's say I want to put calculated value on both, okay? And I don't want to use the tickling, okay? Because here it works, but I don't want to use this, right? I want to use something much controllable. Just what you need to do here is to add like a remote control. I call that a trigger. Okay? So you have a last modification because this is what it gave me an info. It gave me an info. I need a field to be modified just to trigger the change in different calculation. So the best way to do it, instead of doing 1, 1, 1, 1 like this, or A, or ABC, no. I'm getting the last modification. When the last time I trigger this, okay? And I use that as a timestamp, okay? So now I have a field that I can go here and add a let statement. I call that trigger, and I call this field. So now, oops. In this calculation, I have in the calc, I have additional fields in the calculation. It's part of the calculation. It's part of the field now, okay? And I go there, doing the same. So now, what happens if I'm updating that field, okay? The trigger. If I go there, so if I put the timestamp here, boom, right? Why didn't I get the address? What? Ah, that's funny. Oh, maybe because, I'm not in the right here. Sorry, I wasn't in the right field, the right record. So if I click here, boom, right? So just by modifying this, right? Just by modifying this, boom, it gets up there. It's cleaner than the tickling. The tickling is get this and put it again. This is not. This is just, boom, timestamp. Okay? Boom. But let's say I want to manipulate this. Okay? So this is all. Duplicate, and I say this is for accounts, and this is for address. So now I have 3 triggers. Okay? Count. Oops. And this is address. So now I have 3 triggers. This one, and this one. Okay? I have 3 triggers. So this one, right? So I said for address, use the trigger address, and for account name, use the trigger for account. So now I can say, okay, I want to update the account. And I want to update the address. Okay? See? So now I have a full control. I can say, okay, I want to update address. That's it. Leave alone the rest, the other thing. I don't want the other thing. Or update account. Or by extension, you can say, okay, but now I want this and this. I have 2 triggers. Don't worry, you can name like this. It's okay, right? Right. So if I do this on both, so now I have for this field, I have the address trigger and the all trigger. For this field, I have the account trigger and the all trigger. So here what happened? Still, I can decide I want to update account or address, or I have a third option, both. So you have a much better control to what get updated. You have a much better control on this. So do we have questions?
Yes, we do. Give me a second. I'm on a smaller screen, so I have to flip between the chats. Okay, lookup doesn't have replace if it's empty? Question mark.
Yes. But it's not as clean as, as the auto entry, If, for example, if the auto entry is empty, right, it will replace. For example, if I go to my addresses, right, and I disengage this, and I say, update, boom, it go away, right? With relookup, so let's put it back. With relookup, if I do address and I switch to relookup, and I do the tickling or whatever, it stays, doesn't go. Oh, sorry, I need to. It stays, even though I disconnected that, If I go back to AutoEntry and I update, and the address is no longer there. If I trigger, it goes away. It updates accordingly. The AutoEntry, the lookup is not doing this, but you can do it. You can if you want, and I show you how to do it. But it's not clean. You understand? It's not clean. It's dirty, and I show you why. This is clean. It works as expected. If I switch gear to lookup, well, I need to go there and click here, and then to do this. No, I need to update. I need to, remove this and click use nothing. If no exact match, then use blank. Yeah, I don't like this. It's okay, but it works, right? If I go there now and I disconnect the address and I do the tickling, boom, goes away, even though I am with the lookup. But you see, you have to go there, you have to go there, you need to click here, I don't know. It's, Other question?
Uh, no, I think we're good.
Okay. Now, you will say, okay, let's say I want, so let's me create other address for my demo. And another one. Okay. So let's say I want to update many records, like a relookup, okay, using the AutoEntry. Well, I select the record I want, so the font set I want, and I say, okay, I want to update only the accounts. Well, right, what you do, this, you, sorry, do this. You replace the fields, the trigger you want. For example, here I am in front of the trigger accounts, and you replace with the get timestamp. Okay. And of course, this is why I love it, because with FileMaker 21, they added a new option that wasn't there before. This. So the replace field content function has more option. But obviously here, I want that to happen. You know what I mean? I want this to happen. I want the replacement to perform auto entry. You see? They added this to give you even more control on the auto entry calculations. Because lookup more and more and more goes to the oblivion. Okay? So if you do this, right? I can now this trigger for only this record, right? See, I have only this record, only this one. Okay. Here I don't, see. Okay. Sorry. Let me. If I do trigger, update here. I don't have this. Here I have nothing, right? If I click here, so if I blank this, and I click this, he updated the 15 records, right? This is the current record. This is all records. Same for this. If I want, I change this. I said modify this. And same for all. I go there and I said trigger my all. Right? So now I can say, okay, update all the addresses for these 15 records, right? Oh, so everywhere I put, see, up, he put there, there, where he found it, right? If I say update account, boom, he updated the 15 account, okay? And if I say, so let's blank this, and let's blank this. And if I say update all, boom, he update both on the 15, right? So you have much more control using the auto entry versus the relookup. Relookup is very hard coded. It's hard to maintain, hard to check, how to control. Here I have a full control, and I can do, I can have multiple. I have an example where, for example, I can start it if you want. I can show you the file, and where I have this. Let me open it. So you will see how many triggers I have in one table, right? Because you don't want, and they're all related to with the same key, right? So if I had to use the relookup all the time, I will have problem. It will be slow, because when you change something, let's say I'm changing the address of a contact or an account. Do I want the invoice to be updated? Everything related to invoice, everything related to payment, everything related to, I don't want that to be updated. I just want the address to be updated. But if all of those tables are related with the same key, right? And you have to relook up that key and everything. But if you use the auto entry with the trigger the right way, well, you can isolate on like blocks and say, okay, oh, I want the trigger to update this, right? And you can isolate, and sometimes you can say, okay, yeah, but sometimes you can say this field, for example, it can be updated with one trigger and another trigger, right? Sometimes you want two triggers to update the same fields, right? So you can pretty much do what you want. With relookup, it's complicated. So I'm not saying that I'm not using the relookup, but most of the time I'm using relookup when I create a record related, and more likely I will never have to change anything there. Right. I mean, it's not something I need a constant update. Like, for example, invoices, total invoiced, amount due. I don't want, I'm not going to use any relookup there because I know that will change all the time. Right? And this is heavily updatable. I need to launch update all the time, So you don't use relookup because for the reason I mentioned, it's hard to maintain. Any question?
No, I think is everyone following along, everybody? We all good? We all keeping up? Oh, here's one. Could you update a trigger timestamp field from another auto enter field? Will it cascade to other updates?
Yes, but this is a catch when you do this. Okay. Uh, let's say how I can do that, because sometimes you need to trigger twice. Okay. Um, so let's say you want a tag. I'm going to try to make one, cascading. And you say, you have a trigger, and it's the account trigger. And the calc is okay. So that's the calc. I think this will be a problem. But this is what I want. So here, this is a Boolean. So let's say the name is empty, everything empty, okay? Okay. And let's say I'm updating this, okay? Oh yeah, but it's not, it will work though. Yeah, it will work. It need to be related. Not is empty. Maybe if I do like this. Aha, see? Yeah. But if I uh-huh. The problem is, yeah, it's worked too much. It worked too well. In sometime you can do it. See here I have a cascading, right? But let's say I don't even need that. I don't even need that because if I said this, not is empty account name in the, right? I don't even need to have the trigger here. It will update automatically. Like for example, if I blank this, it said no, but if I have a auto entry that says boom, it say yes automatically. I don't need, because the trigger updates that field, and this call that field. So when this modified this get modified. You understand? That's the beauty. That means this field, I modified this field, that get that field updated. Sorry, this field, right? And because this field has been updated thanks to that trigger, this will update this. That's why I don't need to put the trigger here. And actually, it will be bad if I put the trigger there. Why? It's because it will get updated twice. 2 times that will be triggered. The first time with the trigger, and the second time when this field get updated. So see how it works, the cascading? This trigger will trigger that field, and because that field get updated, that will, that's the beauty. So before we go to another question, if we have just like a glance to how many triggers you can have in one table. While it's opening, do we have another question?
Not at the moment. So I really do need to get the Jeopardy music sometime.
Yeah, it's I'm opening the, okay, it's there. Okay. So you see, I have quite some IDs and stuff like that, right? So this is the trigger I have, right? So we have a trigger for the arbitration, for the billing, for the bulk import. I have one for debug, one that I use, right? The debug is when I use it to test stuff. I have my own. That means I leave that alone. I do, So see, we have different schedule, different triggers, and we trigger things, right? And here, normally, I'm putting in the comments, right, which trigger is actually triggering the field, right? So you have two, this one has the debug, arbitration. See? I maintain this. I put the trigger in the comments, right? So I have a comments. Because sometimes it can get tricky, it can get complex, right? So you need that. Well, so next week we are going to, I don't know if we have another question.
I think we are pretty good, looks like.
Okay.
I'm gonna double check, but yeah.
So pretty much, long story short, leave alone the lookup, leave it alone, because it's part of the thing, but I have some, most of the time, right, is to get an ID. See, I'm getting IDs, but after that, see, it's parcel numbers. I'm taking numbers, IDs, So, for example, I put the county. Now, here I can tell you what happened. I put the county name, right? I put the county name, and I get the county ID. So the ID is not going to change, right? unless I change the county. But it's not an update like a first name, last name like this, right? It's a code. More likely, it's not going to happen. But that's it. I'm not going to look all the auto entry calculation I have versus the relookup, right? And most of the time it's IDs. So this stuff here, it's the Jurassic side of FileMaker, like the validation. We have a webinar about how to replace validation, how to get rid of this. Okay. No longer use this. And I'm saying that with confidence because I know that even the boss agrees with me that this needs to be forgotten, right? Forgot. You need to forget this forever and pretend it never happened. And the lookup is pretty much the same thing. You know, it's like this, the modification and all of those things is, they tend to be like, not using that anymore. And, because the modification date, for example, what do you call a modification? Anything you touch in the record or when you modify something valuable, right? You know what I mean? Something you want to. Oh, that's a good webinar. Can you note this? Can you take a note?
Yes.
Modification, modal modification.
Modal modification.
Yeah, modification date timestamp because I modify so many things. Like for example, I click when I select, for example, in my UI, I'm selecting a document. I'm selecting a document, for example. Well, I'm putting an ID in a global in that table. Boom, modified. Is that modified? Did I modify the record now? So you want a modification, you want to know what get modified, really modified, right? So, any question? If we don't, we can.
I think we're good. So in that case, we'll
Okay.
wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick.
So next time, Monday?
Yes, we will see you on Monday.
See you on Monday.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.